better not mess with me. Because I had to survive The Walking Dead. And I know how to use a guitar. Mean survival skills. We don't die in the sewer. We just keep beating shit until it breaks. Today we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead, the Telltale's adventure game. This is the Game of the Year edition that comes with 400 days, which we will talk about in a future time. So for the physical product, it does not come with a copy of Drakengard 3, as to the much hopeful delights of people importing. It has a very simplistic booklet, but amazingly, the booklet features very tannish color. But, anywho, nothing but the basics though. The Game of the Year edition gives you a link to the soundtrack and videos, which is just a link, no code or anything, so not something particularly special though. So anyway, The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is a modern point-and-click game. And if you're not familiar with point-and-click games, they are just simply mostly story-driven games for you to experience. They don't really feature a lot of gameplay that's interactive per se. Mostly you just control a character moving around, collecting items, and communicating with people. Now, the game does include some aspects of quick-time events, which became more of a common thing in more modern adventure games of this kind of caliber, but not all per se. But The Walking Dead, I think, makes efficient use of it in the few ways that few games do. I mean, I consider Shenmue one of the few games that really makes good use of QuickTime events of that. And I think it's most appropriate for The Walking Dead, being a very story-based game. So anyway, Telltale's game is complete original characters. As far as I'm aware of, only one character from the comics and show and that appear in the Telltale's game, and he, as far as I'm aware, appears in every single thing that is The Walking Dead. So, probably no surprise for him. Aside from him, as far as I'm aware, everyone is the original character, and this does take place in the universe of The Walking Dead. You mainly play as a criminal named Lee. As the game opens, you are in a cop car. You have been arrested for the murder of somebody who was sleeping with your wife behind your back. And of course, like a story seen so many times, jealous rage and anger took over. Obviously being arrested for a crime that he obviously can't deny he did. Sadly, the worst time to be arrested is during the zombie apocalypse, as the zombie apocalypse began. And so does the story. The cop sadly wheels off the road, and thus begins Lee's survival journey. It's really just the characters running through trying to survive. It starts out with them finding a base, but over time it's them on the move for mostly the rest of the game to the coastline in hopes of escaping the zombie apocalypse. That hope that we can get somewhere where there aren't zombies, that we can make it beyond. Death is something that you will experience a lot in this game, and choice is clearly thrown at you that is very important. Many characters can survive or die in many ways. And while there are characters who will permanently die at some point, many characters can die at multiple points incredibly early or late in the game. So there is a lot of variety in how the story can unfold. And interestingly, the end of each episode, in an episodic fashion the game was originally released in, at the end of each episode, many of the major choices if you're playing online, can be pulled, and you can see how many people went down this choice and this choice, and whether you were in the majority or the minority. And you can kind of see some interesting parts though, and it changes a lot depending on when you're playing. I've seen a lot of different ups and downs with certain things. But primarily, you get a lot of characters that come in and out of your group, so you better not get too attached. You might regret it. Now, I don't really want to talk about a lot of the characters except for one more character, Clementine. She is basically the second main character of the game. While you don't ever really take direct control of Clementine, her and Lee are partners in crime in the zombie apocalypse here. Clementine is a child. A child, you might be like, oh, good lord, an escort mission forever. Well, Clementine would be willingly to be welcome to an escort mission because she's a lot more helpful than any child in a game I've seen in a long time. Clementine is smart, clever, and she'll be there for you to back you up. Of course, she is still a child, though, so don't ever forget that either. But Clementine is found by Lee at the beginning of the game very early by herself with her parents gone. Lee sadly will learn of her parents' fate on the answering machine at the house. This leaves Lee in a predicament of what to do with Clementine. These horrifying monsters are out here, and she's all by herself. So Lee takes her, and they both strive to survive as long as they can. Now, I do want to really note that there are a lot of different effects on the ending you can have, but ultimately, the same thing in the end will ultimately happen, just with different effects that are on it. So, don't feel like you're getting that whole Mass Effect kind of thing. Every choice has value. There is value in certain choices you pick, but at the same time, there's a lot of events that will transpire in the same fashion. So it really does drive that feeling, but in the ultimate reality, certain events just progress that way. But there are effects, like I said, you could have characters who died way earlier than they could have died, and things change a bit. So there's a lot of interesting differences there. So it does add some replay value to this point-and-click game. Now, the kind of real-time quick event kind of stuff is mostly just button prompts with fights and that with zombies. Usually a lot of grabbing and that happens. Usually prompt quick time events and smashing of buttons. Other times with guns and such, you usually have a distance with the course or to shoot them. Which, as a point-and-click adventure game, shooting isn't exactly a very common thing, you know. But there is shooting events during the game, so you better get your trigger finger going well for certain events. But ultimately, you know, I don't want to really talk about that deep into the story because, you know, major spoilers, so that part of the review obviously to the end. The game is on the PS3, the 360, and PC, and I think it's on the Wii as well, as downloads. Might be wrong on that one, but you can get a physical version for the PC, PS3, and 360 indefinitely. But I think the only... Oh, and it's also on the Vita, actually, too. But I think the only versions that have 400 days all compiled with Season 1 is on the PS3, 360, and Vita. I don't think there is a physical version on the PC that has all that. I can't really say there's a whole lot more to really go into without going into the spoiler material of this. So I guess I recommend the game if you like point-and-click choices and a game trying to tug at your heart a bit. But, you know, if that's not your kind of thing, it's not your kind of thing. I recommend it. You can get for pretty cheap. You can get the Game of the Year edition for $20. Probably much cheaper now. That's how much I paid when it was brand new. So you can probably get much cheaper now. So, anywho, spoilers to the end. So the storyline, you know, you get your group and that all the way to the coastline, and basically the little girl gets kidnapped, and you basically get thrusted into an event that basically early in the game there was a car your group found that had shitloads of food in that. That guy did come back, and he's pretty much pissed. Whether you stole or not will not change how pissed he is at you. Sure, he will not call you a thief because of it. Well, actually, I think he did still call me a thief in the very end part where he was getting mad, but basically you get a fight and shit and that. Oh, by the way, Lee gets bit. Yeah, big spoilers there. Lee gets bit near the end of the game during this kidnapping, so basically he's spending the last of his humanity trying to save her from this fucking lunatic. And the game ends with you helping her get free in that of the little predicament, and he basically asks her to kill him, which you can choose not to, and that is one of the choices that get pulled at the end of the game. But it's, as a game that kills off the character you're playing, you know, there's so few games I could really say that pulled that off very well. A lot of times that maneuver pisses me off. Like, Chrono Trigger did it really interestingly. You know, back in the day where you didn't have fucking the internet and stuff, you know, you could have actually finished Chrono Trigger not realizing you could have actually brought Chrono back to life, you know, that... Of course, these days, trying to keep something like that kind of grand reveal is kind of hard these days. But a lot of times, when main or very important characters permanent die, it usually pisses a lot of people off, because a lot of times it's done pretty sloppily, and it doesn't have that emotional feel in it. And, you know, with the internet spoiling shit and stuff, it's really hard to do that really well. You know, it's hard, very hard to do that. And, you know, being in a point-and-click game, you know, I don't really know a lot of point-and-click games that have a lot of mortal drama. I know there are some. I've heard, you know, like, Pushing Up Roses review some, so I'm not saying there aren't any, but ones I've personally played, I've never personally played any really dark, horrific point-and-click games. And I wouldn't say The Walking Dead's completely dark. I mean, it has its humorous moments, too. I mean... But it's a zombie apocalypse and a lot of fucking people die. So Clementine basically ends up in the end by herself with two people or zombies possibly far in the distance. In season 2, you play as Clementine now, and she becomes the main character. So and season 2 is not done at this moment, and I don't know anything about season 2, and I haven't played 400 Days yet, and I don't know how that connects with the original season 1, but it'll be interesting to see. I plan on streaming 400 Days on Twitch hopefully this weekend and have 400 Days done and be able to get a video of that out too, in my opinion. But overall, The Walking Dead was satisfying. I definitely enjoy the cel-shaded look of the game also. I really like that. But I do want to give fair warning also on top of that. Telltale games on consoles always have like odd frame rate issues. There was a lot of stuttering moments of loading and such, and it's not perfect. A lot of people always say the PC versions are superior on that. So, you know, if that kind of thing bothers you a lot, you might want to consider that. But overall, I enjoyed the game. It's not hugely expensive. It's enjoyable. I like the graphic art style. I think it complements the game much more than all the bloody realism you could have thrown in now. And you know what's really sad? You remember a long time ago, 2K game? Oh, yes, I remember that video where you were just like, we can't ever touch emotions until we reach true realism. Well, you know, The Walking Dead only won, let's see, how many awards was it? It was somewhere on here. Over 90 Game of the Year awards. Yeah. Stuff that in your stocking, 2K games. Anyway, I am the Mad Overlord Atticus. Praise the sun. And I hope you enjoy my views on The Walking Dead. If you agree or disagree, let me know. I think the game is pretty enjoyable and is a decent price. But, point and click games ain't for everyone. So, hopefully I'll see you all next time on the 400 Days. Well, hopefully we won't see as much carnage. But you know what? You never know. Because it's a long road when there's nothing but zombies out there. Keep praising.